Welcome to the Depth Dive. Today we are finally getting to a topic that I know a lot of people have some pretty strong feelings about,
Mhm.
and that is bamboo.
Oh, absolutely. It's a real love it or hate it plant.
It really is. For so many people, it's one of two things, right? It's either that beautiful, wrestling privacy screen you see next door,
Hmm.
or it's the dreaded invasive weed that's threatening to, I don't know, crack your sidewalk.
Exactly. But we're going to look beyond just the backyard garden today.
Mm.
The world of bamboo cultivation is, it's just massive.
And that's our mission for this deep dive. We're going to unpack what it really takes to manage this plant, whether you're just aiming for that backyard screen or looking at its commercial future.
And it's a fascinating subject because, well, the plant itself is a bit of an oddity. Most people think it's a tree. But bamboo is actually a woody-stemmed perennial grass.
A grass. In the same family as, like, your lawn.
In the massive Poaceae family, yes. There are over 1,400 species worldwide, and its potential as a renewable resource is, it's huge. We're talking everything from edible shoots to industrial materials and even bioenergy.
So our goal is pretty straightforward. We're pulling the core knowledge from these sources to give you a clear map for how to grow it right, and maybe more importantly, how to grow it responsibly.
And that begins with what you called its identity crisis.
Okay, let's unpack that. Why does bamboo have this universal reputation for being invasive that just terrifies home gardeners?
Well, it all comes down to its underground system, the rhizome. And there are two fundamentally different types.
Okay.
First, you've got your clumping bamboo. This type uses these thick rhizomes. The technical term is pattymorphs. They're designed to stay put.
Stay put how? Like, they just don't grow much.
They grow, but in a very tight, predictable cluster. They might only expand a few inches every year, which makes them incredibly easy to manage.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for that beautiful contained privacy barrier, or you want to grow it in a big pot, clumping varieties are what you want. Think of things like graceful bamboo or Bambusa oldhami. They respect boundaries.
So clumping bamboo is kind of the default safe choice for the average homeowner who just wants a lush look without, hiring an excavation team every spring.
100%.
Mhm.
But then you have running bamboo.
And this is the troublemaker.
There's the source of all the horror stories.
Yeah.
Running bamboo spreads using these thin horizontal rhizomes called leptomorphs, and they just go.
They just run.
They can spread indefinitely, covering huge areas. In some places, they're even classified as having a high risk of invasion. They're incredibly powerful. They'll seek out water and nutrients, and yes, they can absolutely damage concrete foundations, sidewalks, if you don't control them.
Okay, so that distinction, running versus clumping, is it's everything. It's non-negotiable.
You get that wrong, and you're fighting an uphill battle from day one.
And before we even get into, shovels in the ground, there's this one other biological detail that I found so fascinating. It kind of puts this whole control issue into perspective.
Ah, you must be talking about the flowering.
Yes, the gregarious flowering. It's wild. Most of these species only flower once every, 20, 50, some even 120 years.
It's an incredible phenomenon, and when it happens, nearly all the plants of that species flower at the same time, all across the globe.
And here's the picker. After they set these little rice-like seeds, the whole plant, it just dies off.
The mature plant, yes.
So because that seed production is so incredibly rare, the real battle for controlling the running types is all about those underground rhizomes, right? You're not fighting seeds popping up everywhere.
That's a key insight for management.
Exactly.
You're not weeding for seedlings. You are physically fighting an underground highway system.
Okay, let's move to planting them. Say you've made your choice, a well-behaved clumper or a runner you plan to contain. What are the baseline conditions for a strong start?
The basics first. So, location and climate. Most bamboo loves sunlight. You're aiming for about 6 to 8 hours of direct sun a day.
Partial to full sun.
Right. And the temperature range is pretty broad. 40 to 90 degrees Fahrenheit is ideal. But, and this is important, if you're in a colder region with hard freezes, you have to select a cold hardy variety.
Because not all of them can take it.
Not at all. A lot of the really prized ones, like some of the beautiful black bamboos, are very sensitive to freezing. You have to pick the right plant for your zone.
And what about the soil itself? I imagine a plant that grows this fast must be pretty hungry.
It definitely is. It prefers a loamy, well-draining soil. And the pH should be near neutral, so somewhere between 6.0 and 7.0.
So how do you prep the spot?
You want to dig a hole that's at least twice the width of the root ball, and then you mix the native soil you dug out with some good organic compost. A 50.50 ratio is perfect. Oh, and a quick tip. If you know you have heavy clay soil, the kind that just holds water, putting a 2-inch layer of gravel at the bottom of the hole can make a huge difference for drainage.
And why is drainage so critical? What's the biggest mistake new growers make?
Overwatering, without a doubt. It is the silent killer of bamboo.
Really? I would have thought underwatering would be the problem.
Well, they do need a lot of water. You want to water deeply. But then, and this is the key, you have to let the top inch or so of soil dry out completely before you water again.
I see.
During the peak growing season, that might mean watering 2 or 3 times a week.
Yeah.
If you underwater, the leaves will curl up and turn brown. It's a pretty obvious sign.
But overwatering is worse.
Much worse. It starves the roots of oxygen, and you get root rot and fungal diseases very quickly. It's much harder to come back from that.
It sounds like a bit of a balancing act. Now, what about feeding it? With that growth rate, it must be a nutrient monster.
It's a grass, so it's a tremendous nitrogen hog. You'll want to apply a balanced, slow-release fertilizer twice a year.
NPK, right.
Yeah.
Nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium.
Exactly. Something like a 10-10-10 or maybe an 18-6-12 works great. The N for nitrogen is the really important one for all that leafy growth and for pushing up new shoots.
And when do you apply it?
Once in early spring to give it a kickstart for the shooting season, and then again in midsummer. And keep an eye on the leaves. If they start turning a uniform yellow, that can be a sign of iron deficiency. A little iron supplement will fix that right up.
Okay, let's talk about the elephant in the garden, containment. If someone does choose a running variety, maybe for its height or its hardiness, you need a serious plan. What's the gold standard for stopping those runners?
The gold standard is a physical barrier, but it requires serious effort up front.
Okay, what kind of barrier?
It needs to be a heavy-duty material. You can use metal, but thick, high-density polyethylene or HDPE plastic is usually preferred. It's super durable, and it won't break down in the soil.
Okay, hold on. The sources say that barrier has to go down at least 24, maybe even 30 inches deep.
That's right.
I mean, that is a serious amount of digging. That sounds like a weekend project turning into a month-long ordeal. Is that depth really non-negotiable? Can't you get away with, say, 18 inches?
I wish I could say yes, but unfortunately, no. That 24 to 30 inches is essential.
Why?
Because those aggressive rhizomes will absolutely dive deep to get around a shallower barrier. They will find a way. But just as important as the depth is the height above the soil.
You mean it has to stick out of the ground?
Yes. You have to leave 2 or 3 inches of the barrier sticking up above the soil line.
Why? I thought the threat was underground.
It is,
Yeah.
initially. But the rhizomes are smart. If they hit a wall they can't get through, they'll often creep right up the side of it, go over the top, and dive back down into the soil on the other side.
Wow.
That little lip above the ground stops them. It forces them out into the open where you can see them, just snip them off.
That's fascinating. Okay, but what if I really don't want to install an expensive heavy-duty barrier? Is there a, I don't know, a lower tech, but maybe more high-maintenance option?
There is. And it requires vigilance. You can dig a simple trench around the perimeter of the grove, maybe 12 to 18 inches deep.
And the trench stops them.
No, the trench doesn't stop them. It exposes them. It acts as an observation deck for the root system.
I get it.
It lets you easily spot any new runners that try to cross your boundary, and then you just go up with a sharp spade and sever them. But you have to be on top of it, especially in the spring shooting season.
Let's talk about above-ground maintenance. How do we prune to keep the grove looking good and staying healthy?
Regular pruning is key. You want to remove any culms that are dead, yellowing, or damaged. Cut them right at ground level.
What does that do for the plant?
It immediately improves airflow and lets more light in. And better airflow is critical for reducing the risk of fungal problems like leaf spot. You can also thin out some of the older, mature culm, say 5 to 7 years old, right before the new spring shoots emerge.
And I assume sterilizing your tools is important.
Always. With any plant, but especially here, always sterilize your tools to avoid spreading any diseases from one plant to another.
Speaking of which, what are the main threats? Pests, diseases? What should we be watching for?
The pests are usually sapsuckers. You'll see spider mites, which leave that fine webbing and cause yellow speckling on the leaves. Also aphids, mealybugs, and scale insects.
And how do you deal with them?
Most of the time, a good insecticidal soap or a neem oil solution will knock them back pretty effectively.
Okay. And on the disease side?
Root rot is the most common, and like we said, that's almost always from overwatering. But the really concerning one is the bamboo mosaic virus. BAM-MV.
What does that look like, and what do you do if you find it?
It causes these really distinct yellow spots and what's called necrosis, so tissue death on the leaves, often in a sort of mosaic pattern. And unfortunately, there's no known cure.
Oh, wow. So if a plant is infected,
If you confirm an infection, the plant has to be removed and completely destroyed. It's really infectious and can spread easily to your other bamboo, often just on contaminated pruning tools.
that's serious. Okay, let's shift gears completely now. We've covered the backyard, but the sources point to bamboo as a major industrial crop. How on earth did agriculture scale this tricky plant up to be economically viable?
Well, the biggest initial roadblock, especially in temperate places like Europe, was just the economics of propagation.
How so?
Traditionally, you'd propagate it by just dividing existing clumps. And that method is incredibly slow, it's a ton of work, and it's seasonal. This meant the price per plant was really high, around 9 euro for a single plant.
Which makes planting a huge field completely unaffordable.
The initial investment for any kind of large-scale agroforestry was just way too high to justify.
So if dividing clumps was too slow, how did they crack the code? How did they get the scale they needed?
They turned to high-tech horticulture. The answer was tissue culture, specifically a method called micropropagation.
And what does that do?
It completely bypasses that slow, manual process. It's incredibly efficient. It lets you achieve rapid geometric upscaling. We're talking about producing hundreds of thousands of plants. The source is 10 to the fifth power from a single genotype, all within 1 year. And you can do it year-round in a lab.
That is a complete game changer. That must have slashed the price.
It was vital. That technological leap allowed them to cut the price of the planting material by 40 to 60%. And only then did these huge agricultural projects start to make financial sense.
So once they got the plants in the ground, how long before they saw a real yield?
The field trials showed that it takes about 5 to 6 years for a new plantation to get fully established and reach its optimal yield.
And which species were the real workhorses for producing all that biomass?
The trials in Europe found that Philostachys aureosulcata spectabilis and P. aurea were the star performers. And the yield potential is, it's just astonishing.
How astonishing.
With high-density planting, that's 10,000 plants per hectare, you can get up to 100 tons of fresh material by the 4th year. But of course, that's a very high initial cost.
So what's the sweet spot, the balance between cost and speed of return?
Researchers identified what they called a golden solution for the spacing. It's 2 by 2.5 meters, which works out to about 2,000 plants per hectare.
And that gives you a good yield without breaking the bank on the initial planting.
Exactly. It speeds up the path to profitability. But to handle those kinds of yields, you can't be using manual labor.
Right. Mechanical harvesting has to be part of the equation. Can you even use existing farm equipment on bamboo?
Yes, and that was a key finding. The way the culms grow so densely and uniformly, up to 20 culms per square meter, means you can use modified versions of existing machines, like corn or sugarcane harvesters. They tested 2 main methods.
Okay, what were they?
Method A was chipping. It's the fastest. The machine cuts the culms and instantly chops them into small pieces. The problem is that chipped material has a huge surface area, and it starts to mold and deteriorate within about a week.
Which is a logistical nightmare for an industrial supply chain.
A huge headache. So that led to Method B.
Which was?
Method B is bundling. The culms are cut, collected, and then bound into these large, manageable bundles. Because the culms are kept whole, deterioration is very limited.
So you can store it.
You can store it for several months. And that flexibility is absolutely critical for industry. The whole harvesting season can span 6 months from about October through March.
So let's follow that bundled bamboo into the factory. What are the big industrial uses? Why is it a good substitute for traditional wood?
In some cases, it's not just a good substitute, it's actually better. It's already used to make incredibly hard parquet flooring, plywood, and all sorts of composite boards like MDF.
Medium density fiberboard.
Right. And the trials showed that existing mills could easily chip bamboo as a substitute for roundwood. But what was really fascinating was that adding just 10% bamboo fibers into traditional wood MDF actually improved the strength and characteristics of the final product.
So it's an enhancement. That gives manufacturers a real incentive to use it. What about for energy?
Immense potential there. Its net calorific value, the energy it releases when burned, is right up there with high-quality energy woods like spruce and beech. So it can be converted into energy very efficiently through briquettes, pellets, or gasification.
When you put all that together, the fast growth, the high yield, the industrial uses, it feels like this points to a pretty major socioeconomic shift.
It absolutely does. I mean, the whole push towards using bamboo as a non-food agricultural crop is backed by policies aimed at things like CO2 reduction and making use of marginal land. And economically, the impact is powerful. Creating bioenergy from biomass is estimated to generate 3 to 4 times more jobs than using fossil fuels.
It's a whole new industry.
It is.
Yeah.
And for farmers, it offers this unique hybrid. You get faster returns than you would with traditional forestry, but you only have to plant it once. After the first few years, it's mostly mechanized maintenance.
So this deep dive really shows that whether you're managing a small screen in your backyard or a massive commercial plot, it all comes down to two things: understanding the rhizome type, and then nailing the basics of soil, water, and nitrogen.
That's it. And the modern technology, like tissue culture, simply unlocked the massive industrial potential this amazing plant always had.
It's a resource that really does bridge the gap between agriculture and forestry.
It does. And, given that we now know that certain temperate bamboos can produce an astounding 100 tons of fresh material per hectare in just 4 years,
Yeah.
it makes you think.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder what landscape in your region, that land that's maybe considered marginal or is just sitting unused, what could that become?
Right. Could it be transformed into a sustainable, profitable resource using these very techniques?
Something to think about next time you see a bamboo screen.